This episode is brought to you by Mobility Public Relations, the full-service PR agency created specifically for mobility technology companies just like yours. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tether.tv. I'm Rob Woodbridge. I'm having casual conversations with mobile rock stars, and I'm speaking with Jim Summers, who's the Chief Marketing Officer and Strategy Officer for Antenna. Now, Antenna is the largest independent mobile enterprise solutions provider in the world, and it's a really interesting take on to get an interesting take on what Jim is doing at Antenna and what Antenna is doing in the market. Something that we call the enterprise mobile applications market, and I'm very intrigued to get his perspective, because there's a torrent of activity that large companies are now involved in building out mobile applications and creating efficiencies in their offices with this technology. So welcome, Jim, to Untether, and thank you for sharing your story with the viewers.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Rob.
So why don't you, for those people who've never heard of Antenna, let's talk about what that is to begin with, and give context about the business that you're in and the market that you guys are serving right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, Antenna's been in business for just over a decade. We're located in Jersey City, New Jersey here.
It's the greatest view, yeah.
I figured we'd use it today. And we're in Jersey City, right across the Hudson River from New York. And our humble beginnings go back, 11 years ago, across the river to a little loft in Soho. And the company was called the Antenna Tool and Die Company. And it really started essentially as a company that was trying to help businesses, primarily with large field forces, to really be more efficient with their field workers by leveraging mobile and wireless technologies. Back in the day, it was essentially pagers and being dispatched on pagers.
Yeah.
But some of our customers we still have today, like Xerox, Pitney Bowes, were some of the early customers who had these distributed workers out, and primarily the core of everything that they were doing, which is somewhat ironic because it's always been like a plumb line for everything we do, is better servicing the customers. And today that is more true than ever. And although a lot of the apps that we make for the employees, still a majority of our business, a lot of what we're doing. But Antenna, the core of everything we do here is the heart of it is the Antenna mobility platform.
Yeah.
We sold the platform into 300 customers, but today it's really about the appeal and the sort of the sexiness of the applications. And really, to really understand the value of a platform, you still have to capture their imaginations about what apps can actually do for their business before that platform really has meaning. But we make scores of packaged applications across a variety of industries, and all of them are powered by AMP.
So let's talk about a little bit about AMP, because there are a lot of vendors out there who offer a kind of a middleware or a rapid application development for mobile apps, basically transcribing skills from HTML and CSS and JavaScript into mobile applications. Where do you guys fit into this landscape? Certainly targeting enterprise. You've been doing it for long enough, and focusing on productivity and enhancing productivity for their employees is drastically different from the consumer market, which is distractions from productivity and predominantly gaming and
right.
Ultimately a lack of productivity. So how do you fit into that I don't even know, that map of application developers, and how does AMP fit into there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think nobody would argue the fact that today mobile is incredibly complicated.
Yes.
The plumb line, again, to use that expression, that runs through everything we do is the business. We're not making games. We're not making those types of fun applications necessarily. We're trying to do things that really, essentially what we're doing is we're tightening that gap between the customer, the consumer, and the business. And we think that through our technology, our experience, some recent acquisitions we've made as a company as well, has really brought those two worlds together and said that we now have a platform, AMP, that can actually serve as not just business to employees, but also the consumers as well that actually want to buy products, want to buy services, want to engage with the brand. And that's essentially, where we see the big opportunity right now is really bringing those two worlds together and having AMP be that platform for that. So AMP is really trying to tell IT departments as well as the business leaders, business unit leaders, that you shouldn't fear mobility. I think we all know that mobility is going to be the next computing platform,
Yep.
and you shouldn't be scared of it, and that you can actually, with our tools, our platform, our applications, can actually embrace the variability and get control over it, and drive your business forward and enhance your revenues.
And I mean, what are you seeing in the enterprises? I spoke with I've spoken with a number of Fortune 100 companies, and their CTOs, and there seems to be somewhat of a hesitation to embrace mobile, like you said just a second ago, that they shouldn't be afraid of it, that they should be embracing this with all of their might, because it is that next wave of technology that's coming, or that's here, and they or just beginning now. What are you seeing? Are they hesitating? Are they embracing it? Is it kind of tepid the way that they're doing it?
I mean, I think now there's more urgency, obviously, than there's ever been. I mean, every year we joke, every year, this is the year
of mobile.
Yeah. And finally, I mean, it's really upon us right now. It is tipping. And I think one of the reasons is because there's a lot of variables. At a very high level, macro business level, I think because of the economy, a lot of companies have been very conservative with their spend. They haven't been hiring a lot of people.
Right.
And they're sitting, I think as a result, we're sitting on, I read some statistic, like $1.5 trillion of liquid assets is kind of sitting on the sideline right now. And Wall Street, for the type of companies we go after, the high end of the market, the Global 1000, Wall Street's been penalizing these companies for really stripping out so much cost. They're saying, how about enhancing revenue? How about showing some growth here? So there's only so much blood you can suck out of an IT stone. And now that they've kind of done more of a supply side view of managing their cost containment, now it's about demand side and driving it. And they see mobile as a way of really capturing the imagination of employees and their productivity. And the beautiful thing for IT that they're recognizing is that they don't have to advertise it to get that demand side economics. People are walking these things in the door themselves. And admittedly, there still is some duality or some tension there between people that say we have to standardize on these devices and the other folks that want to say, let 1,000 flowers bloom. Whatever device they want to use, they should be able to use. In this business, as you know, every day it's about some kind of ambiguity or duality or tension of opposites, which really kind of strikes at, to put my marketing hat on here, at the tagline, which we just come up with, which is deploy happiness, which is really, it's cute. It's a cute expression, I admit, but it's supposed to be really leveraging deploy, which is really an IT-centric word, almost militaristic, with happiness around the users. Because now, if they don't use it, you have that sort of, you look at an app, and if you don't like it in a nanosecond, you're moving on. So if people don't see how it helps them, they're going to move on. So we're trying to find that balance between the user and the IT group.
It's great. It's a great tag because, as you said, it's it's kind of two polar opposite approaches, and deploy happiness. It's hopefully you can do that, and I know that Antenna does this on a regular basis. When you look at the opportunities, you guys have been doing this for 10 years, and you obviously saw this 10 years ago back in the pager days, because a distributed workforce is no different today than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. There's still people out on the road. Cars are faster, planes are faster, trains are faster, and technology's advanced so you can take anything with you wherever you go. Right. But you must have seen this great transition happening from 10 years ago mobile, which may have been an iPac, not an iPad or an iPhone, but an iPac or a Palm device or Windows mobile device, and you've seen that transition happen into the always connected devices. And is there any hesitation ever from these organizations that you're going into about too much employee productivity, too much engagement by employees? Are they I interviewed a lovely woman, Sydney Eve Matrix, who talked about the future of work and the impact of mobile on work. You see that a lot. Is that something that comes up in conversation after hours?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you don't have to really advertise the fact anymore that we're all mobile. I mean, that's kind of given right now. Where things are really, I think, taking hold right now is really around sort of this idea of the real-time enterprise or the frictionless enterprise. And what we see a lot happening is, again, this duality of people to say, you know what, my competitor just launched an app that's, let's say, a loyalty points app if I'm a beverage company, and I'm the head of marketing. I got to say, I can't. I have to go out and launch something as well. I have to kind of create that rich user experience as well and engage my customers. And what they'll do is they'll say, well, my son goes to college, his roommate knows how to make apps, and we'll launch something, and then it's out there. It kind of reminds me, remember the ad back when e-commerce was really taking off with IBM and the flaming logo?
That's right.
That, and he says, you know, what if you could do this, that, da, 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 and the guy says, yeah, well, it's just a flaming logo.
Yeah.
We refer to this as the stranded app. And we see a lot of projects out there that are very myopic, very contained, but not very scalable. Because let's face it, in a real-time enterprise, especially with the likes of the Cokes and the Walmarts and the E-Trades, things change in the market, things change in your business, that you need to be nimble and agile. So having the ability to manage that application, the back-end systems, the devices, the networks it connects to, and then be able to leverage that sort of that IP and intelligence and effort you put into that one app and take it to other departments as well is critical.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we find right now is that, you know, really right now, the number one thing that people are talking about is write once, deploy to many. Yeah. Sort of the buzzword, right? Which we've been talking about for years and years and years. But there's such a maniacal focus right now on development and saying, I got to get this thing developed. And then once you do it, it gets back to the IBM. It's like, you know, you launch it, then all of a sudden stuff starts happening, and you're like, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So that's the power. We don't like to use scare tactics, but to say you need to look at mobility as a holistic solution. You know, look at, I mean, what is it? Mary Meeker, you know, another overused expression I'm sure you read is that, you know, sales of smartphones will surpass PCs in 2012. That is the tipping point. Yeah. It's happening. How do you control it, and how do you embrace it for your business to drive the business growth forward?
Well, it's happening, and you know, and not only that. When you talk about the proliferation of mobile devices globally, I mean, it's already surpassed many times over the number of PCs that are installed on people's homes and being carried around, and you know, you're right. I think the statistic's going to be that there's going to be, you know, every person's going to have like 3.1 mobile devices attached to them.
Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere, I think it was a report, it was from, I think the Retail Federation said that there's actually more mobile phones out there than there are credit cards and bank accounts.
Exactly.
Think about it.
It's incredible.
That there are not more than radios. There apparently are more radios out there than anything else. But there's apparently smartphones more than bank accounts, cars, and credit cards. Yeah. It just blows your mind. And that's another thing, is that when we talk to enterprises, they're saying smartphones, yes, but I now need to tackle a much larger swath of the market. You know, thin clients, rich clients, smart clients, mobile web, feature phones, smartphones. You know, if I am an airline company or an automotive company, my audience is people.
Yes. And whatever's in their hand.
You know, and I have to kind of cover all my bases, and having sort of a single throat to choke and a trusted partner is critical for these companies. So that's what Antenna does.
You know, do you find that inside these enterprises, is it a lot of is it push or is it pull? I mean, do you know, the apps? I mean, I think the mobile devices, that's really you know, somebody walking into their office or walking to the company, an employee with an iPhone or a BlackBerry or an Android device or anything, and then saying, hey, listen, I want to do stuff on this, right? I've got this in my hand. I want to be able to first get my email and calendaring hooked up, and that's where the first addiction starts, and then it moves into, hey, you know what? Why can't I do this kind of work on this device? So I can understand there's a lot of pull from organizations, you know, inquiring about that level. But once you're in there talking to some of the larger companies, do you find yourself kind of leading them, or are they leading you with their requirements?
I mean, I think right now they're pulling us into a lot of opportunities right now, and I think that again comes down to that line where you were trying to prove the ROI of mobile around field service. If they're making a decision between buying more hardware or what have you and doing mobile, you had to make more of an ROI type of sales pitch. Today, again, when you switch over to driving revenue for consumers and enabling people to have richer experiences and better customer experiences with the brand, that's really where we're getting pulled into a lot of these opportunities. I mean, the reality is, let's face it, the C-level kind of ushered these devices in and said, this looks really easy. Is this really that hard?
It's all their fault, isn't it?
Nice here, but it's not just an iPhone. It's Android, it's the new BlackBerry devices, and it's exacerbated now with the iPad.
Yeah.
So I got one right here. I mean, it's that now when you look at sort of having a real-time, we use expression, smaller window, better visibility. Having a little window that lets you in any moment in time see how the business is performing is basically now is applied a new level of urgency to all this. So,
well, one of the things that I think that people are beginning to realize is that there's a consumer side to this application space, which is what you see on App World, App Store, and the Android marketplace, and this the Windows mobile marketplace, and all these other places. And then there's this whole other world where people really don't see, right? There's not a lot of coverage from this in major rags and newspapers. It's about that enterprise application world, which to me is the biggest of the big markets, and something that nobody's really factoring into the number of applications out there. That's where you guys play, and do you have any idea how big a market that really is? For your the AMP platform and all of the products that you've built on the AMP platform, and even the approval suite. How big do you think this market is for the enterprise side?
I mean, it's enormous. I mean, I'm a marketer, so I'm going to obviously say that. But, I think historically we have looked at the market, depending on which analyst firm report you read, it's anywhere from $1 billion to $2 billion market around mobile enterprise applications, aka mobile middleware.
Yeah.
Just really servicing, employees, people like delivery people, field service technicians, mobile CRM and sales, those types of traditional things where the deployments are anywhere from 1,000 up to 20, 30,000 workers that are being deployed. And again, that is really the core. And that's, it's not as sexy a lot of times, but people are doing a lot of sexy things out there with mobile enterprise applications in the enterprise, on the employee side. However, this whole other world of B2C, right? Again, it's business to consumer.
Right.
Then you've got mobile commerce. You've got mobile payments. You've got mobile advertising. You've got mobile content. You've got machine to machine. And you kind of march your way along here. And you're looking at, anywhere from, we've done estimates around a $400 billion market in our analysis when you add all of that up. And it's enormous. So right now, by constraining it to the employee stuff, you're limiting it. But let's face it, what we tell our employees is, our customers is, don't try to boil the ocean. Don't get seduced by all the advertisements out there. Find that one win you can get on the board. And that's what our pioneers we worked with have done. They found that one process, they've gotten success, and then they built it out from there. And we have myriad of those types of case studies.
It's and that's it. Because it is overwhelming. What's going on and the speed of change that's happening in the mobile space, and sometimes most of the time it's very difficult to just grasp something, or to contain your viewpoint to one thing that mobile can help your organization do, and then just start with that, right? So I mean that's really where the approval suite comes in, right? It's because you can offer AMP and you can offer this massive mobility in the enterprise. And people will look at you with glazed eyes and say, oh, well, that's just too big for me to understand. It's like, getting somebody to visualize $1 trillion. It just, you can't, right? You don't know how big a pile that is. I'd like to try, though. Trust me. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
But so the same thing with mobility. It's like a big wall of bricks, and you say, well, listen, let's just pick one. Like here. Like, we're going to make it easy for you. Was that the idea behind the approvals suite?
Absolutely, and that was a better segue than I ever could have done. So
nice.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, what the AMP Approval Suite is trying to do is say, the applications, sort of going back a couple of years, are very big purpose-built applications around, composite apps pulling data from different places. which are still very, very necessary out there, depending on the different industries. But a lot of times people will become overwhelmed by that. Wow, I'm doing a change in my CRM system in a few months. I better wait. Or don't. No, let's try to impact the business today. Either it's expense management, maybe it's scheduling. It's try to take a very simple flow and try to mobilize that workflow. And as you get success with those, you stream others in. So people are becoming more accustomed to these things. But they all need to be managed under one management center and creating one broad view for the IT organization, the enterprise, to see how people are using those. So, that is really the essence of the approval suite and a lot of the applications we're making, they're more task-based types of things. And as you move from that, you can start going up the chain to or upstream to industry solutions and process solutions and things like that.
But it's really that entry level, right? That you're already doing this. This is a little bit more of an efficient way of doing it, or a much more efficient way of doing it. And you're typically not going to have to wait the 24 or 48 hours it usually takes on a paper-based or an internally based system.
Right.
And what's the response to this? It's a great segue. It's a great entryway to go into to your existing customer base or new customers. And what's been the response?
They've embraced it very well. How I get it. This is a beautiful application. I can see how I can deploy this quickly. I can see how I can stream other similar types of workflow applications in right behind it. And I can see how this is going to add immediate value to how my workers do their daily activities. Because the reality is if you don't have adoption and people can't see how this fits the way they work, you have nothing. And when mobility has moved from really the core of it historically has been around task-based workers who had a very linear approach to their day, get dispatch, go in, fix, move on to the next job, to more widespread information workers and people in a more collaborative work environment. You can't build something that goes from point A to B to C to D all the way to Z. You need to give them lighter weight, thinner tools that allows them to pick and choose in their different day-to-day activities because we all work differently. And that's why I think they've embraced it.
Yeah, and what's been the most surprising thing that you guys have seen over the last 10 years when it comes to to mobile? Aside from the fact that every year for the last 10 years has been, the year of mobile, and I still don't think that we've seen it yet. I think that, soon, but then it'll just be, it'll kind of go from the year of mobile to just, okay, it's mobile, right? And like, it was always the year of the web. It was always the year of e-commerce. It was, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, it's just another platform. What as this has transitioned, what's been really surprising for you guys? Is there anything that's been shocking that did anything hit you on on the back of the head and say, oh yeah, that was the turning point for this industry?
That's a great question. I would say probably the rapid adoption or interest, maybe is a better word, with marketing organizations and how quickly marketers have gone out and embraced this and gone out to their agencies and said, we got to get ahead of this thing right now. What do you guys know about this? And being able to talk with them, to have a strategic conversation with them about a particular brand and how mobile can become that channel for them. Yeah. But what we try to coach them on is that it's not the fourth channel. It's not bricks and mortar. It's not the catalog. It's not web commerce. And now there's the source channel, which is mobile. It's actually a layer underneath that interacts and works with all these channels. Yeah. And that people are getting that now. But that adoption there, as well as a new audience that we see more and more of, is the e-commerce executives. So those people who are responsible for a web presence, either a bank, a hospitality company, an airline, and they have a very predictable revenue stream coming through the web. And if they start to see that leaking and defecting over to the mobile, they've got to be there to make sure they can catch it. Yeah. So that seamless transition and helping our clients make that transition, that's happened very quickly. And it's also very exciting because we're there to help them.
One of the conversations that's raging online right now is this whole battle between mobile web versus apps.
Yes.
My personal opinion is that there's no such thing as this is a fictional battle between mobile web and apps because mobile web is just another platform. It has to run on all these devices. Like it has to run in every browser and every operating system on every machine. So if you have a website, well, it has to run the same on. You have to expect the same experience on a mobile device.
Right.
And then mobile apps. That it's the decline of the mobile app because of HTML5 and the mobile web, which is another fallacy, I believe. I don't know. What do you think? What's your opinion on as an apps company? I know where you stand.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I think the word app is very loosely used, well, and very accurately used, because it is essentially apps today. But
Yep.
for me, the way I see it is that this sort of discussion happening, this debate in the marketplace, I think is more about, it's not just the application, it's content.
Yeah.
It's anything that can be delivered over, an iPad or, a different type of mobile device that is video, it's advertisements. It's a much broader ecosystem than just the pure application itself.
Yeah.
And then you start bringing in things, I mean, we call it the 4 C's. It's essentially context, collaboration, content, and commerce. And those 4 things, sort of that halo around all this, I think is what just is going to make this thing explode in a much different manner. And, context, Gartner is a firm who talks a lot about context-aware computing. And the value really of presence and location, social groups, and monitoring usage patterns all in real time, that is an additive value and insight into the application itself. Yeah. It's very powerful stuff. So we're only, to use the Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm, we're still hovering over that chasm right now. And there's some people trying to push it over, right? And but right now these are still early days, to your point.
Very, very early days, and that's what's so great about it is that you talked earlier about the marketing companies and marketers really embracing this very quickly. The web took a long time for marketers to embrace and business to embrace, but mobile, it just seems like overnight. And it's almost like the marketing guys are the ones that are leading this brigade, right? They're coming up with the new business models, and they're coming up with the new strategies for for distribution and partnering and content. And it's very refreshing compared to the old technology days where you build Office and then you distribute it. And there's 1,000 features in it that you only use 9, right, or whatever it is, right? Like
it's the new shiny nickel for marketing right now, and I mean, let's face it. I come from an advertising background a long time ago, but advertising is had some challenging times in recent years, and I think they look at this as a sort of a path out into sort of a whole new sort of renaissance for advertising, which again comes back to the point around mobile internet, mobile content, in the delivery of those services to businesses and employees in general and consumers in general. Is an enormous opportunity that I think a lot of the marketers are jumping on.
I agree, and I think that what we're seeing not only from the business standpoint and the marketing, the advertising standpoint is it's a step technology where the guys who may have lost out 5, 6, 7 years ago and on a slow decline or really didn't embrace the market back then quickly enough have a really great opportunity to leap ahead if done right. Same thing with the guys who embrace this technology and build this technology into their business. So you've got companies like Adobe 10 years ago that really became the web company, right? Adobe was not mired anywhere, but it was just kind of, it was a niche company, and then the web exploded, and then they embraced that, and they became a leader in the web space for web-enabled software. And right now, it's the same with the mobile space, right? Where a lot of these guys who have been dogging it for the last 10 years really have an opportunity to leap ahead, and by leveraging mobile. And I'm seeing a lot of, bounces around, or, hopefully in the case of Antenna, you have that ability that, you've been building for 10 years to this moment. And this is the moment that Antenna just, accelerates beyond where you guys are right now. Something to that extent. Optimism there?
Yeah, I mean, we're very bullish, obviously, on this market. A lot of exciting things coming up in 2011, which is exciting because we start to see ourselves coming out of this. As they say, more to come on that front. But One thing I want to draw your attention to is I think for advertising as well is that there's such a need for good design as well.
Yeah.
And the one area that I think a lot of firms have been kind of sitting on the sideline a little bit, either the SIs or maybe some of the ad agencies and marketing firms, is really understanding the human behavior and how applications should be designed in a way to optimize that experience. That the sizzle of these things that are out on the app stores is great in these fun games, but how do these almost become sort of transparent tools in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
And pulling in things like I mentioned before, context and location and augmented reality is exciting. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for good human factors to come into the game here, and good UI design, the way it happened 10 years with web.
With the web. So when you look at what you guys are doing, you're working with some of the biggest brands, some of the biggest companies. Is there anything that sticks out, some of the key success factors or success that you guys have had in deployment and the impact that Antenna and Antenna software has had on their business?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One app we're really excited about these days is for a client of ours called ING Direct, big bank, obviously,
yep.
A global bank. They've actually launched, they've done a lot of advertisement talking about that in recent weeks, but they've launched an application that's mobile banking, checking up your transactions and doing a lot of those types of familiar things. But it's a very, very well-designed app that very much adheres to their brand and the voice they have in the market, which is a very interesting voice if you know ING. It has a little bit of a wink and a smile to it. But one thing that they've done pretty well, I don't know if I'll be able to show it here too effectively, but this is the app here when you log in
yep.
and you sign in. I'm personally not yet an ING customer, but when you flip it, it's called Flip for Fun. And what you see is it actually, again, gets back to sort of this duality we talk about in the market where sort of this is business and I want to do my work, but you know what, I want to flip it over here for fun and I want to interact with the ING brand.
Nice.
And look at their sort of their Web 2.0 assets of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And it's a really elegant way that they've really kind of brought these two worlds together, and it's very exciting. And they've had tremendous success with this application, and it's out right now. You can download it on the App Store, BlackBerry, as well as the Android marketplace as well.
And I mean, that's one of the things you've got to, for a client like ING, you really have to be on every platform.
Yep.
That's one of the key things is that they're not going to accept a BlackBerry only or an iPhone only.
That's exactly right.
And I guess that's the challenge with the UI as well, making sure that it works the same and has the same type of experience on all platforms.
I mean, we have another big box retailer that starts with a W, that has done some really interesting stuff early days around, again, going to that very direct area of the business, which is fixing refrigeration machines, units in the store. And they lose millions of dollars a year in food spoilage. So we had built an application for them to kind of go out and fix those machines and take that information when the job is done and actually put the record, the information from a compliance perspective with the EPA. But now they're thinking, and I can't talk too much about what they're doing, but they're talking about doing all kinds of things that are targeted at the consumer and enriching that retail experience, that in-store experience, and leveraging mobile for that. So, again, it's an example. I raise that only to say that they started with a very kind of acute need in the business, and now they're bridging over and seeing the opportunity elsewhere. And we see that with other companies like Coca-Cola and Heineken and so forth.
And I mean, obviously, what you're doing is with ING and the brands that are outward facing. So, the big box store, Coca-Cola, all these other guys that these applications are for their customers that you're going into. You're leveraging their marketing clout, aren't you? It's the best way to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we acquired a company called Voltus Mobile Technologies back in March, and Voltus had done a beautiful application for E-Trade.
Yeah.
And it's just been gangbusters successful for Voltus and now for Antenna. And if you remember the baby, right, the talking baby, and all the media that went around that, it was it's very much an extension of the brand, and the way they want to engage and interact with their customers it's critical to their business.
It is, and I just when you're out there building applications for customers, is that the engagement that they have to have in this process, and the belief that mobile will have a huge impact on their business. The more that permeates the organization, the more successful that application can be, obviously because of the distribution and the clout. Ultimately, marketing a single app on your own is a very tough proposition. It's just, it's so much noise out there that you want to leverage.
The economics. I mean, I had read somewhere that, there's, I go out and actually, coach soccer on the weekends. I'm talking to a guy who's, I have a great idea for an app. What do you think of this? And I said, well, before you go out and spend, tens of thousands of dollars on building this app and hiring somebody to do this, you got to look at the economics here. How much, the developer gets versus the person who's doing the distribution of the application, and the pure economics that come down from this, and the sheer girth of applications on the App Store model. Those economics are not quite as overwhelming as you would think. But listen, it's who knows how expensive or inexpensive these apps will be ultimately. But we believe that this thing is just going to be so broad, whether apps are for free, up to $50 per user, and everything in between, that you need to have an infrastructure there that controls and manages and lets you have full visibility into your business and how mobile is impacting it. It's critical.
Yeah, and as we've said, I think a couple of times now, it's early days. But everything more so with the mobile space is measurable, right? Finally, for the first time, really you can tailor an experience, and you can measure what changes or the impact of that experience because of the mobile platform, and you need to have that infrastructure without a doubt.
Yeah, you can't manage what you can't measure, as they say. So
that's a good way to end it. Jim, look, I really appreciate you coming on and doing this, and giving some insight about the way that Antenna views this mobile space, especially in the enterprise side. How do people find out more information about you guys?
Well, the web is probably the easiest way, is www.antennasoftware.com.
Yep.
You can find us, as they say, find us online. We also have a site called mobilemasterscommunity.com.
Okay. And
that is a community that Antenna is facilitating a dialogue out there. And we have that out there for our customers and our partners to engage with each other. Hopefully you won't see the Antenna brand anywhere on that, but we encourage everybody to sign up for that and check in every day and join the conversation. So that's, again, www.mobilemasterscommunity.com.
Well, that's great. Well, Jim, again, I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much. I've been staring out at the view behind you.
Yes. The sun is now starting to set over Jersey City, so nice view.
Then it's almost time to go. So listen, I've been speaking with Jim Summers, who is the Chief Marketing and Chief Strategy Officer for Antenna. Check them out at antennasoftware.com. Their solution is is AMP. Go and take a look at it if you're thinking clearly about bringing mobility into your enterprise. Or just reach out to Jim. You can reach him from the website as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Rob. It was my pleasure.
I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.